Hare Krishna. Welcome back to our online reading retreat labs. So we are continuing with the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, canto number 1. So we are in the chapter number 4, and in the last session we have covered till verse number 16. So let's then get started with Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, SB 1.4.17. So let me share my screen of our database. So we have verse number 17 and 18 together. Translation. The great sage, who was fully equipped in knowledge, could see through his transcendental vision the deterioration of everything material due to the influence of the age. He could also see that the faithless people in general would be reduced in duration of life and would be impatient due to the lack of goodness. Thus, he contemplated for the welfare of man in all statuses and orders of life. Purport. The unmanifested forces of time are so powerful that they reduce all matter to oblivion in due course. In Kali Yuga, the last millennium of a round of 4 millenniums, the power of all material objects deteriorates by the influence of time. In this case, the duration of the material body of the people in general is much reduced, and so is the memory. The action of matter has also not so much incentive. The land doesn't produce food grains in the same proportions as it did in the other ages. The cow doesn't give much milk as it used to be give formerly. The production of the vegetables and fruits also is less than before. As such, all living beings, both man and animals, do not have sumptuous, nourishing food due to want of so many necessities of life. Naturally, the duration of life is reduced. The memory is short, intelligence is meager, mutual dealings are full of hypocrisy, and so on. The great sage Vyasadeva could see this by his transcendental vision as an astrologer can see the future fate of a man, or an astronomer can foretell the solar and lunar eclipses. Those liberated souls who can see thorough, the scriptures can foretell the future of all mankind. They can see this due to their sar vision of spiritual attainment. And all such transcendentalists who are naturally devotees of the Lord are always eager to render welfare service to all people in general. They are the real friends of the people in general, not the so-called public leaders who are unable to see what is going to happen 5 minutes ahead. In this age, the people in general, as well as their so-called leaders, are all unlucky fellows, faithless in spiritual knowledge and influenced by the rage of Kali. They are always disturbed by the various diseases. For example, in the present age, there are so many TB patients in TB hospitals, but formerly this was not so because the time was not so unfavorable. The unfortunate men of this age are always reluctant to give reception to the transcendentalist, who are representatives of Srila Vyasadeva, and selfless workers, always busy in planning something which may help everyone in all statuses and orders of life. The greatest philanthropists are those transcendentalists who represented the mission of Vyasa, Narada, Madhava, Chaitanya, Rupa, Saraswati, etc. They are all one and the same. The personalities may be different, but the aim of the mission is one and the same, namely to deliver the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. Moving to the next verse, verse number 19. Translation. He saw that the sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas were means by which the people's occupations could be purified. And to simplify the process, he divided the one Veda into four in order to expand them among men. Purport. Formerly, there was only the Veda of the name Yajur and the four divisions of sacrifices they specifically mentioned, but to make them more easily performable, the Veda was divided into four divisions of sacrifice, just to purify the occupational service of the four orders. Above the four Vedas, namely Rig, Yajur, Shama, and Atharva, there are the Puranas, the Mahabharata, the Samhitas, etc., which are known as the fifth Veda. Sri Vyasadeva and his many disciples were all historical personalities, and they were very kind and sympathetic toward the fallen souls of the sage Kali. As such, the Puranas and the Mahabharata were made from related historical facts which explain the teaching of the four Vedas. There is no point in doubting the authority of the Puranas and Mahabharatas as parts and parcels of the Vedas. In the Chandogya Upanishad 7.1.4, the Puranas and the Mahabharata, generally known as histories, are mentioned as the fifth Veda. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, that is the way of ascertaining the respective values of the revealed scriptures. Moving to the next verse, chapter number 1, chapter number 4, verse number 20. Translation: the four divisions of the original sources of the knowledge, the Vedas, were made separately, but the historical facts and authentic stories mentioned in the Puranas are called the fifth Veda. Moving to the next verse, SB 1.4.21. After the Vedas were divided into four divisions, Pailarusi became the professor of the Rig Veda, Jaimini the professor of the Samveda. Vaishampaya alone became glorified by the Yajurveda. Purport: the different Vedas were entrusted to different learned scholars for development in various ways. Moving to the next verse, SB 1.4.22. Translation: the Sumantu Muni Angira, who was very devotedly engaged, was entrusted with the Atharva Veda, and my father, Romaharshana, was entrusted with the Puranas and historical records. Purport: in the Shruti mantras also it is stated that Angira Muni, who strictly followed the rigid principles of Atharva Veda, was the leader of the followers of the Atharva Veda. Moving to the next verse, chapter number 1, chapter number 4, verse number 23. Translation: all these land scholars in their turn rendered their entrusted Vedas unto their many disciples, grand disciples, and great grand disciples, and thus the respective branches of the followers of the Vedas came into being. Purport: the original source of knowledge is the Vedas. There are no branches of knowledge, either mundane or transcendental, which do not belong to the original text of the Vedas. They have simply been developed into the different branches. They were originally rendered by great, respectable, and learned professors. In other words, the Vedic knowledge, broken into different branches by different disciplic successors, has been distributed all over the world. No one, therefore, can claim independent knowledge beyond the Vedas. SB 1.4.24. Translation: thus the great sage Vyasadeva, who is very kind to the ignorant masses, edited the Vedas so they might be assimilated by less intellectual men. Purport: the Veda is one, and the reasons for its divisions in many parts are explained herewith. The seed of all knowledge, or the Veda, is not a subject matter which can be easily understood by any ordinary man. There is a stricture that no one should try to learn the Vedas who is not a qualified Brahmana. The stricture has been wrongly interpreted in so many ways. A class of men who claim Brahminical qualifications simply by their birthright in the family of a Brahmana claim that the study of the Vedas is a monopoly of the Brahmana caste only. Another section of the people take this as an injustice to the members of the other caste who do not happen to take birth in a Brahmana family. But both of them are misguided. The Vedas are subjects which had to be explained even to Brahmaji by the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the subject matter is understood by persons with exceptional qualities of goodness. Persons who are in the modes of passion and ignorance are unable to understand the subject matter of the Vedas. The ultimate goal of Vedic knowledge is Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead. This personality is very rarely understood by those who are in the mode of passion and ignorance. In the Satya Yuga, everyone was situated in the mode of goodness. Gradually, the mode of goodness declined during the Treta and Dwapara Yugas, and the general mass of people became corrupt. In the present age, the mode of goodness is almost nil, and so For the general mass of people, the kind-hearted, powerful sage Srila Vyasadeva divided the Vedas in various ways so that they can be practically followed by less intelligent persons in the modes of passion and ignorance. It is explained in the next sloka as follows. So moving to the next verse, Canto number 1, chapter number 4, verse number 25, SB 1.4.25. Translation. Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this could enable man to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus, he compiled the great historical narration called the Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice born. Purport. The friends of the twice born families are those who are born in the families of Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, or the spiritually cultured families, but who themselves are not equal to their forefathers. Such descendants are not recognized as such for want of purificatory achievements. The purificatory activities begin even before the birth of a child, and seed-giving reformatory process is called Garbhadhana Samskara. One who has not undergone such Garbhadhana Samskara or spiritual family planning is not accepted as being of an actual twice born family. The Garbhadhana Sanskar is followed by other purificatory processes, out of which the sacred thread ceremony is one. This is performed at the time of spiritual initiation. After this particular samskara, one is rightly called twice born. One bath is calculated during the seed giving samskara, and the second bath is calculated at the time of spiritual initiation. One who has been able to undergo such important samskaras can be called a bona fide twice born. If the father and the mother do not undertake the process of spiritual family planning and simply beget children out of passion only, their children are called Dvijabandhus. These Dvijabandhus are certainly not as intelligent as the children of the regular twice born families. The Dvijabandhus are classified with the Sudras and the women class, who are by nature less intelligent. The Sudras and the women class do not have to undergo any samskara save and accept the ceremony of marriage. The less intelligent classes of men, namely women, Sudras, and unqualified sons of the higher castes, are devoid of necessary qualifications to understand the purpose the un- of the transcendental Vedas. For them, the Mahabharata was prepared. The purpose of the Mahabharata is to administer the purpose of the Vedas, and therefore, within the Mahabharata, the summary Veda of Bhagavad Gita is placed. The less intelligent are more interested in stories than in philosophy and thought, and therefore the philosophy of the Vedas in the form of the Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord Sri Krishna, Vyasadeva, and Lord Krishna are both on the transcendental plane, and therefore they collaborated in doing good to the fallen souls of this age. The Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. It is the first book of spiritual values, as the Upanishads are. The Vedanta philosophy is a subject matter for study by the spiritual graduates. Only the postgraduate spiritual student can enter into the spiritual or devotional service of the Lord. It is a great science, and the great professor is the Lord Himself in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and persons who are empowered by Him can initiate others in the transcendental loving service of the God, of the Lord. Moving to the next verse, SB 1.4.26. Translation. O twice born Brahmana, still his mind was not satisfied, although he engaged himself in working for the total welfare of all people. Purport. Sri Vyasadeva was not satisfied with himself, although he had prepared literatures of Vedic literatures of Vedic value for the all-around welfare of the general mass of people. It was expected that he could be satisfied by all such activities, but ultimately he was not satisfied. Moving to the next verse, SD 1.4.27, translation. Thus, the sage, being dissatisfied at heart, at once began to reflect, because he knew the essence of religion, and he said within himself, purport. The sage began to search out the cause of not being satisfied at heart. Perfection is never attained until one is satisfied at heart. This satisfaction of heart has to be searched out beyond matter. Moving to the next verse, we have two verses together. SB 1.4.28 to 29. Translation: I have, under strict disciplinary vows, unpretentiously worshipped the Vedas, the spiritual masters, and the altar of sacrifice. I have also abided by the rulings and have shown the import of disciplic succession through the explanation of the Mahabharata, by which even women, Shudras, and the other friends of the twice born can see the path of religion. Purport: no one can understand the import of the Vedas without having undergone a strict disciplinary vow and disciplic succession. The Vedas, spiritual masters, and sacrificial fire must be worshipped by the desiring candidate. All these intricacies of Vedic knowledge are systematically presented in the Mahabharata for the understanding of the women class, the laborer class, and the unqualified members of a Brahmana, Kshatriya, or Vaishya families. In this age, the Mahabharata is more essential than the original Vedas. Moving to the next verse, SB 1.4.30 translation. I am feeling incomplete, though I myself am fully equipped with everything required by the Vedas. Purport: undoubtedly, Srila Vyasadeva was complete in all the details of Vedic achievements. Purification of the living being submerged in matter is made possible by the prescribed activities in the Vedas, but the ultimate achievement is different. Unless it is attained, the living being, even though fully equipped, cannot be situated in the transcendentally normal stage. Srila Vyasadeva appeared to have lost the clue and therefore felt dissatisfaction. Moving to the next verse, SB 1.4.31. Translation: this may be because I didn't specifically point out the devotional service of the Lord, which is dear both to the perfect beings and to the infallible Lord. Purport: the dissatisfaction which was being felt by Srila Vyasadeva is expressed herein in his own word. This was felt for the normal condition of a living being in the devotional service of the Lord. Unless one is fixed in the normal condition of service, neither the Lord nor the living being can become fully satisfied. And this defect was felt by him when Narada Muni, his spiritual master, reached him. It is described as follows. Moving to the next verse, SB 1.4.32. Translation: as mentioned before, Narada reached the cottage of Krishna Dvaipayana, Vyasa, on the banks of the Saraswati, just as Vyasadeva was regretting his defects. Purport: the vacuum felt by Vyasadeva was not due to his lack of knowledge. Bhagavata Dharma is purely devotional service of the Lord to which the monist has no access. The monist is not counted among the Paramahansams, the most perfect of the renounced order of life. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam is full of narrations of the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. Although Vyasadeva was an empowered divinity, he still felt dissatisfaction because in none of his works were the transcendental activities of the Lord properly explained. The inspiration was infused by Sri Krishna directly in the heart of Vyasadeva, and thus he felt the vacuum as explained above. It is definitely expressed here with that without the transcendental loving service of the Lord, everything is void. But in the transcendental service of the Lord, everything is tangible without any separate attempt at fruitive work or empiric philosophical speculation. Moving to the next verse, SB 1.4.33. Translation: at the auspicious arrival of Sri Nārada, Sri Vyasadeva got up respectfully and worshipped him, giving him veneration equal to that of given to Brahmaji, the creator. Purport: Vidhi means Brahma, the first created living being. He is the original student as well as the professor of the Vedas. He learned it from Sri Krishna and taught Narada first. Narada is the second Acharya in the line of spiritual disciplic successor. He is the representative of Brahmana, and therefore he is respected exactly like Brahma, the representative of Brahma, like Brahma, the father of all these regulations. Similarly, All other successive disciples in the chain are also equally represented as representative of the original spiritual master. Thus, and the Bhakti Vedanta purports of first canto, fourth chapter of the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, entitled The Appearance of Sri Nārada. So, with this, we have completed chapter 4 of canto number 1. So, in the next session, we will start with the chapter number 5, that is Narada's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. So, till now, we just close the session. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, शिला प्रभुपाद की जय. हरे कृष्णा.